Hey everyone, David here. Sorry I haven't been on of late. Just got a new job, going really well, but I'm absolutely run off my feet. So obviously I've not been on YouTube a great deal. Right, Capcom. They only have 152 million US dollars left in the bank. Everybody's saying it's game over for Capcom. Now, if you've been watching Capcom, I'd say for the last 5 to 8 years, this really doesn't come as much of a surprise. Now, I've had somewhat of a backstory with Capcom. As a 33-year-old, I grew up playing their games. Things like Mega Man, Ghosts and Goblins, all their 80s and 90s classics, Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Resident Evil on the PlayStation, and I think there's quite a few key reasons why Capcom are in the mess they are. I mean, 152 million sounds like a lot, but when you consider how much your average third-party game costs to develop nowadays, and with costs about to rise 10-15% for the PlayStation 4, Xbox One generation, you're talking, like 60-70 million US dollars a game. You could say, yeah, it's game over for Capcom. Now, I'm just going to itemise these, what I believe reasons are, in no particular order. Reason number one, all their top talent either got fired or left on bad terms with Capcom. Kenji Inafune, the guy behind Mega Man, Shinji Mikami, the guy behind Resident Evil and Dino Crisis, and countless others, I'd imagine. They all left on bad terms with Capcom. Capcom basically abandoned their franchises, wouldn't pump money into them. These people said, sod it, we're off. Like Kenji Inafune, he's got a game coming out called Mighty Number 9, which ostensibly is Mega Man. Obviously, you can't use Mega Man because it's a copyrighted work. Shinji Mikami, I don't know what he's done. I think he went and made his own, started his own game development firm. But that's reason number one. Number two, they changed what these franchises ostensibly were into something else, thinking it would make them more commercially successful. Case in point, Resident Evil. Resident Evil 2, 3, number 3, Nemesis, Code Veronica, absolute cast iron classics. Survivor, yeah, that's a blip on the radar, but number 5, I'd leave 4 out, it's still a fairly decent game, but 5, 6, and Operation Raccoon City, absolutely were terrible games. The problem is, they dumbed down survival horror into essentially a rather vacant action game in order to make it appeal to people who are into things like Call of Duty and modern shooters, thinking it would make these games more commercially successful and therefore cover the costs of their development. This didn't work. I mean, there was such a backlash about Resident Evil, and I agree, 5 and 6 are mediocre at best games, and Operation Raccoon City was dreadful beyond belief. Yeah, this is another big reason why Capcom and the proverbial shitter basically changing these games into something they weren't. Number 3, I'm trying to think of a third reason here. Farming development out of ostensibly Japanese franchises to Western studios who didn't know what to do with them. This is another really big reason. Case in point, 2009's Bionic Commando, which was developed by Grin in Sweden. A decent action game, yeah. Bionic Commando, definitely not. No. And not just Capcom, loads and loads of big Japanese developers admitted farming development out of their franchises to Western studios never works. I mean, Operation Raccoon City was internally developed by Capcom of Japan. It was developed by Slant 6 Games, I think they're Canadian. And we all know how that went, so no. And for me, I think those are the big 3 reasons why Capcom are dying. Well, not dying, but you're definitely on life support. Can they be saved? I'm starting to veer towards no. Too much damage has been done. Too much bad PR. Too much short-sightedness. Too much shoving half-baked products into people's laps and thinking they'll lap them up. I would say no. I mean, I would not want to see Capcom die, as they're a big part of my gaming childhood. But I can see it happening soon. I mean, if that were to happen, I think some of these franchises, they could find a new place if somebody who cared about them bought the intellectual property. If Capcom were to go bankrupt, it's like THQ going bankrupt last year. I mean, everyone was lining up to basically buy the rights to the intellectual properties that THQ owned. I think Resident Evil, Mega Man, Dino Crisis, I'd love to see a new Dino Crisis. They could all be resurrected if a company who cared about them picked them up. And that's pretty much it. I mean, yeah, I'm not the only person who's covered this whole thing with Capcom, but I just thought I'd stick my 2 pence in. So, this is David signing out. I hope you're all well. Hope to see you soon.